This is a long video and is best enjoyed sitting back and letting the video happen. But if you want to see a particular part, the video chapters are below. Sometimes in this game, I get obsessed on figuring out the drop rates of new or obscure chests and items. I gather a ton of them in a short amount of time and see what they have to offer. Partly to show people what to expect, but mostly because I can't stand such information not being available in the first place. This story doesn't start much different. It is nearing the end of 2023 and the realm of Niles has been unveiled. In it is a single meta event with a new quirk. There are 2 chests with the same name but supposedly different drops. Well, technically 3 chests, but the third is a once per account item. Besides the same name, they also share an icon, so from now on I will refer to them as Ignaxious Hoard Boss and Ignaxious Hoard Achievements or Events. That is because the boss hoard can be gained from defeating the boss at the end of the meta, while the achievements hoard is received from completing the Ignaxious Eradicator achievement, which in turn is completed by doing all 5 of the unique events of the meta chain, including defeating the boss. This made getting the boss hoards easier, as I could just join in on the end of the meta and get one. While the achievements hoards came in slower as I frequently missed out on the first event of the chain. Setting out, I made my goal to get 100 total hoards, 50 of each, but since one came by easier, I decided to continue until I had 50 of the achievement hoards. And after around 2 months of casual play, I ended up with 50 achievement hoards and 76 boss hoards. But instead of opening them right then and there, I decided to hold on to them, as this was just the first part of the Niles map and the meta ends at a suspicious bridge. My intuition told me that the road to Hathor meta will be the first part of a multi-part meta. And if I was going to do the second meta part, I will naturally gain more Ignaxious hordes. Sadly, my reasoning was slightly off, and while the second part of the map did come with a meta, it was independent of the Hathor meta. Worse still, this meta isn't great for gathering hordes. You also gain the horde for slaying the boss and a horde for doing all the events, but the main difference is that there is a split at the start event. So, unless you play like a sweat, an achievements horde took 2 metas to complete. Not to mention that arriving late into the meta meant you also missed out on an achievements horde. With this knowledge, I didn't invest that much into gathering horde chests from Niles in that chapter of Secrets of the Obscure, and set my sights on other parts of the game. But even so, I still didn't open my Ignaxious hordes, because the map still had one more part to unveil. And this time, my hunch is sure it will be a meta wherein the previous 2 will be mandatory to complete. To interrupt the intro story for a bit, let me talk about the unboxing methods in this video. Normally, my and most other unboxings gather up as many boxes as they can and then open them all at once. Then, using the end totals, figure out an average distribution for the box. Starting in Niles, this was my plan, but gradually I gained an itch to do it a little different this time. There was something I wanted to confirm, and for that, I needed to know the drops of each individual chest. I am aware of an add-on that basically records these for you, but I couldn't get it to work. I'm not good with computers. So instead, I spent months coding a script in an unfamiliar coding language that identifies and catalogs drops from videos instead. Which came with issues like skipping boxes in the recording, hovering over items, unclear numbers, and more. So I spent even more time going over all the data and correcting obvious errors by hand, filling in from context clues and removing lines that were unclear. The effort was worth it though, as I'd like to show you now with an example. These are trophy shipments, one of the best ways to acquire tier 6 trophies. Though there are also 2 dud drops, and I wanted to know how their drop rates interfered with the totals. All the other materials drop in batches of 5. You may notice I'm not showing any numbers on the icons. That is because it is hard to clearly show them off on the icon. Besides the numbers being small, sometimes the colors blend all together. So from now on, the icons remain numberless. But no worries, the numbers come back when it matters. For now, sit back and enjoy the pretty colors. That was a lot at once now. Let's go over what we saw. In the top left are the openings of 3 different batches. In the top right is a sunburst chart. Doesn't really add any analytical value aside from seeing the general proportions at a glance. Speaking of proportions, in the bottom right is another way to see the opening. But the items are sorted by type. This also gives an idea of the distribution. And lastly, in the bottom left is a more detailed report. On the top row are the icons of the items, or item groups, like Ancient Bone and Tier 6 trophies as a whole. Sometimes I mesh the icons together, but if there are too many, I just pick one at random to represent them. On the row below it is first the total amount as recorded at the very end, and underneath without the erroneous data points. That one is also what ticks up during the unboxing. And to finish off, a bar graph to show the distribution of the item if it shows up in the box. Since each trophy always drops in batches of 5, I simplify them to 1 occurrence instead of 5. This is all a lot to take in and honestly not that analytically helpful. More to confirm hunches and add some pretty colors per unboxing. No, I want to use the information I have for more. I want to make a preview box with what I think is the true contents per shipment. Each shipment drops 10 items at a time, and looking at the information, each drop draws from the same drop table. This is different for other chests, but we will get to that later. Let's look at the average chances of one such a draw. Well. This looks very telling already. A true analyst would look at the standard deviation and perform some sort of test by now, but not me. I do that enough at work already. This is not nature. These numbers are placed by an ANET dev, a human. Do you really think they would be like, ugh, blood is gross. Let's lower that a bit. Venom sacs are my jam. The number should be higher. No, of course not. They're human. So they highly likely made all of them the same round number. Going forward, I will use this assumption on all the unboxings, trying to make an educated guess on round numbers of groups and items. Or at least what a human would write down. If your analytical blood is beginning to boil, please share your thoughts in the comments below. Anyways, back to the trophy shipments. It is clear to me that the tier 5 trophies each have a 10% chance of appearing, for a total of 80%. And tier 6 trophies a 2% chance, for a total of 16%. Likely the 2 dot items were added to make that an even 20. Call it an educated guess. With this knowledge, let's make a preview. Since this is my video, I'm not bound by the structure of Guild Wars 2 preview boxes, but I like to stick close to the design regardless. One idea is to list out all the information, RuneScape style. But that's not really a preview anymore, but a wiki list. On the other hand, I can keep it simple with just the icons, as their true distribution, and simplifying it. However, this will cause problems later on. Let's say, for example, each shipment has a super rare chance to drop a glob of ectoplasm. The preview box would look like this. Yeah. In the end, I settled with something in between that resembles the in-game preview style. That was a lot of information, so let's go back to the grinding. The Niles map has opened up, and the last part of the meta is here. As I suspected, the previous 2 metas flow into this one. This makes getting boxes from the first 2 metas a byproduct of doing the last meta. The Eparch final boss. Though it isn't a fun grind. Each meta takes a long time. Not to mention this meta also has an event split, making getting the achievements chest a slow gathering. And as a cherry on top, there's a new extra chest, but you can only get 1 per day, no matter how cool you are. This sort of soured the whole grind. But there was one bright spot on the horizon. With statistics, the more data points, the better. So the more chests, the better. But doing 1 successful Eparch event a day is taking a toll on my mental. If only there was a way to get more chests. Well, I managed to farm 30 daily chests when the answer showed up. A beta. Betas are great. They let you make a snapshot of your account with everything in your bank. And you can go wild, as the snapshots don't affect your account in any way. This is a great time to double up on chests, as you can open on your usual account site and on the temporary beta account site. Let me demonstrate with dragon coffers. Dragon Bash wasn't too long ago, and I managed to gather a good amount of coffers. And I opened these on not 1, not 2, but 3 accounts. 2 betas and my usual account. Still not a lot, but tripling your input with minimal effort is great. Now to analyze dragon coffers. There seems to be a group of common trash party items. Uncommon Dragon Bash valuables, rare items and super rares. Does this preview hold up though? Each dragon coffer drops 5 items total. Seemingly no distinction between draws. Okay, let's go. Looking at the distribution, I can already see that the preview boxing game isn't as useful. The chances are all over the place inside the bracket, as if they are in separate brackets altogether. As a side note, another issue shows up now with analyzing video footage. Items with the same icon. This time I could distinguish gilded coffers from the gilded strongboxes, but the gilded strongboxes have the same name and that's just not possible to separate them from a video. Though for the 4 times that happens in this video, it basically doesn't matter in the slightest, because looking at the chances for all the items, it is clear that they all fall into separate brackets, with champion bags being one of them. Another quirk is with items that drop in different batches. For example, Zytaffy can drop in batches of 1, 2 or 3. So when I have a data point of 3 fireworks and 4 Zytaffy, I know that I got 3 separate drops of fireworks, as they only drop in batches of 1, and that leaves 2 drops of Zytaffy. But I don't know if it's 1 batch of 1 and 1 batch of 3, or 2 batches of 2. Taking a look at when there's only 1 Zytaffy drop, 2 drops, and 3 drops per chest, we can infer a chance for when it drops in 1, 2 or 3 batches. It is a bit unfortunate that the 1 chest I planned for the beta example is a bit difficult to parse and took some artistic liberties. But whatever, the general distribution shouldn't be far off. So, each coffer has 5 draws per opening. On the top we have the Zytaffy and the fireworks. Zytaffy was about a third chance to drop, but since firework was such an outlier at around 11%, I batched them together. And since the Zytaffy values were hard to visualize, I ended up with just placing the distribution below it. Ugly, I know. A big note is that Zytaffy isn't guaranteed, contrary to some other sources. The next part is party trash, which is also very common. That came to a nice 40%. The champ bags to 10% with 2% each. From there on, it gets rare to get each row. The cores, salvages and uncommon junk, and dice and jawbreakers ended up with a similar chance, so I grouped them together. Orbs are actually rare, but not as rare as the minis and mortar weapons. The weapon chest I couldn't find a group for, so I placed it apart. The chance might be a bit higher, variance and rarity and all. And lastly, the super rare group. Honestly, this is just preview bait. The transom didn't drop for me, and looking at other sources, it is basically just as elusive as any of the other super rare drops. And just like that, the drop table from the dragon coffers looks a lot different from what we are told. And this is just a start. Besides being able to double chests, the beta is also great for other reasons, like buying worthless chests that you normally wouldn't even dare to touch, to see what's truly inside of them. Or what I've done a few betas now, getting lots and lots of Black Lion keys. This beta was no different. I planned on getting a lot of keys. Coincidentally, another member of the community was hosting a big data event for opening a lot of Black Lion chests using this method. Great! Getting rewarded for something I was going to do anyway. However, I had to change up my method a bit, as a big part of the event was to check on the exclusives in each Black Lion chest, an item that will only drop once per account. So for the best data, I had to get keys on multiple accounts. Luckily, I have a ton of alts from my max hit points attempts. On my main account, I would place a Black Lion key in my shared inventory slot, and then every map completion it would automatically load into it. But it isn't that easy on free-to-play alts. Let me show how an average run goes. I create a character, and if it's one of the first, I sell off all the free goodies. Then I visit 6 maps that are instantly completed upon entering. Since these accounts don't have any expansions, they are instantly kicked back to Lion's Arch. Except for the last one, Gayala Delve. From there, I teleport to a place with a nearby bank and merchant, mark down the amount of keys I got, deposit them in the bank and move on to the next character. I did this run on 30 accounts until I had 100 keys on all of them. But seeing how close I was to 1000 total runs, I decided to go a little further and completed 77 runs per account. This took me about 1.5 days of grinding in the beta weekend. At the end, I managed to get 1719 keys from 6000 total completed maps. Since I only kept track per 6 maps, I didn't get an idea of any kind of soft pity system concerning keys, though I doubt that's a thing for this. This gives 28.65% chance of a key per map completion. Rounding that to 30% chance for a key per map doesn't sound too out of place. One of the maps on the route is Grofmar Valley. If you complete that map, you get a recovered Charr artifact, a somewhat rare item with some elusive drops. Since I gathered 1000 of them, this looks like a great time to do some analysis on it. Looking at the preview, there's a common section with unidentified rare gear, the 4 keys, and the rare flame weapons. In the uncommon tier, the exotic legionnaire set, in the rare, the Khan-Ur weapons and the Khan-Ur mask, and lastly, a super rare infusion. I'm curious to what it would really look like. Once again, the in-game preview isn't exactly right. Each artifact drops 3 items, 1 unidentified rare gear, 1 key and 1 weapon. So while the unidentified rare gear being common isn't false, it is way better to just say that it is guaranteed. Looking at the keys, they all seem to have an equivalent chance to drop. With the weapons, it becomes interesting. There doesn't seem to be a specific weapon type to be an outlier, so I'm going to assume they all have the same chance to drop. And looking at the drop rates, the rares add up to around 90% and the exotics to 9.5% drop rate, with the special Khan-Ur items rounding out to 100% with 0.5% drop rate. The Kanur pistol seems to have a higher occurrence rate in mine and other drop tables, but I'll just account that to variance. It could be true, it could be an error where it should have been other weapons. But with such a low chance, lots of things can be possible. Also, as a nice bonus, one account got an infusion. Now, is it a bit presumptuous to say the infusion has a 1 in 1,000 chance to drop? Yes, but I think it's funny. Note that the infusion dropped in addition to the other 3 items. It didn't replace any, it has its own drop category. That was quite a grind. Open 1000 artifacts and have over 1700 keys waiting to be used. Going to need a little break before opening them. Since it is near dinner time, I'm going to cook some food and come back for the big Black Lion unboxing. In the meantime, please watch this. Getting all these Black Lion chests would have cost a fortune, if not for the Black Lion Trading Post, the proud sponsor of this video. The Trading Post is your go-to spot for buying and selling your items. With their patented messenger system, you can sell your goods whenever and wherever you are. Be it legendary weapons or soiled rags, if someone wants to buy it, the Trading Post will hold it in storage for you. Long day at the farm and you want to sell your produce? They will keep it fresh for years. Trouble getting rid of your stolen goods? The Trading Post... Whoa. What do you mean, stolen goods? Okay, if you say so. If this all sounds great to you, use code I am Evon Gnashblade when using the Trading Post to support my channel. That is code I am Evon Gnashblade. The Trading Post also sells a plethora of exotic goods, ranging from weapons, fashions and even animals from around Tyria. There will surely be something for you to find. After you bought something, simply visit one of the many nearby Black Lion representatives to pick up your order, or even have them come to you, wherever you are, and they will help you out. Even if it kills them? Nuh-uh. That's where I draw the line. You send your employees out to die? For what? Because some Afro Ashura wants chocolate bananas in a volcano? Ridiculous. I voted for Ellen Keel anyways. I don't care how much you paid me. How much? And that is why the Trading Post is the best place in Tyria for you to buy and sell everything you want. Don't forget to use code I am Evon Gnashblade. Now, back to the video. Alright, I'm back from dinner. Let's open some Black Lion chests. Wait, where are my beta characters? No, this can't be. They said 7 America time, not Europe time, right? Yes, that's right. All my work, all my keys, gone? Well, after a slight panic and a short break, ANET did make a mistake and restored the beta characters and extended the beta as an apology. A bit rattled, I opened my 1700 plus Black Lion chests. Showing the preview right now isn't that useful, as each Black Lion chest is different. It is more the structure that matters. Most of the analysis was done by Shiny Meta, the organizer of the Beta Key collection event. I linked his video down below if you want a more detailed view on this. Highly recommend. The short version is that Black Lion chests have 4 guaranteed slots. One is always a Black Lion statuette. One is an item that rotates for each type of Black Lion chest. For this opening it is the Secrets of the Obscure Material Bag. The next 2 slots are nicknamed left and right. This is because a certain set of items always drops in the left slot and another set of items in the right slot. And lastly, the rare slot. This isn't guaranteed, but sometimes a 5th slot appears with an item from the rare table. The rare table also has the complicated exclusives. Now that is over, let's see the original preview and the preview shiny meta made. For once, ANET has added chances to the drop tables. And they are sort of right, but don't paint the whole story. Shiny meta's chest is more complete and has the claws of the exclusives. But while his preview is great for a glance, it still isn't good enough for me. His preview still has everything at equal chance except for one item. Great for the general idea, but I want more. So let's look at the left group first. It is clear some items are more common than others. And looking at the numbers from all the black line chests from the event gives me some numbers for a preview. Same with the right slot. Some items jump out immediately as having a larger presence. Even within a slot there are rare drops. Speaking of rare, that's where the real treasure lies. Before we analyze the rare section, there's one more black line chest opening to show. Over the years I've slowly collected a small fortune of black line statuettes, and with that I bought as many golden black line keys as I could. These special keys always provide a rare when opening a black line chest. Opening these will surely help me figure out the true rare distribution. Wow, 2 super rares. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. When pulling all the information together, even among the rares, a clear distribution appears. Black line tickets have a large presence. The first black line weapon set is overrepresented and the others are clumped together. Even though it is a small sample set, the exclusives already show their weird quirk. You see, there are always 2 exclusives per chest. One new one and one introduced in the previous black line chest. Shiny Meta discovered that the new exclusive has a higher bias to drop than the old exclusive, with mount skins being an odd one out, but that's not applicable here. With all this info, I crafted my own preview window. Do note that this can change over time, though it should be less drastic than with other chests. I divided the left and right slots up into multiple boxes. This to more elegantly place them together, as some were easier to place as 2.5% and some as 3%ers. As for the rare section, if you have no exclusives unlocked, there's about a 33% chance you roll the exclusive table when you get a rare. My number ended up a bit higher than Shiny Meta's, but it shouldn't matter that much. And from my maths, the new exclusive has twice the chance to show up over the old exclusive. All the other rare numbers should be adjusted down if you don't have exclusives unlocked and are correct when you unlocked both. Well, as correct as I believe they are. A bit arrogant, but with the amount of chests opened in the event, I'm pretty sure these numbers are close to correct. With all this chest opening, key farming and a short panic, I'm actually a bit mentally drained. Oh, did I mention that there's a big project deadline at my work? Yeah, I think I'm going to wait with opening the chests outside of the beta and take a little break. It's been some time, still a bit burned out, but with the launch of Janthir Wilds, I think I'll play a bit to unwind. Oh look, there's some chests to collect here too. Don't worry, I will try to just collect some here and there for the eventual big unboxing. There are these Honeycomb-covered Gear Bags boxes. You can get 3 of them a day, one from a jumping puzzle, one from a gliding puzzle and one from a bee padding puzzle. There are also precious Lowland Charr gear boxes. At the start of Janthir Wilds, I can get one from defeating the Bog Queen, Barbed Veil and by dancing. Bit more annoying to get, but when doing some daily hunting gathering, I'll see if I can get some here and there. Speaking of here and there, on both maps there are digging spots. They contain lesser and minor Kodan caches, and some special spots a mythic Kodan cache. How exciting! I think I can get around 3 a day. Hey, that matches up with the honey bags. a small daily task to do. And lastly, there is a meta that plays every 2 hours in the second map. And there's a small chance for a special spear. I wonder what the chances are for that. I have 2 weeks off from work, so I'll play a bit here and there and maybe do some daily gathering of these boxes, but nothing too much. I messed up. I messed up a lot. The curiosity got me again and I couldn't stop myself. Gathering 3 chests of each became a routine and my free time got dictated by the Titan meta. The majority I got during the first weeks, where it was also possible to double dip the hoards. But I really neglected everything else. My work and mental are suffering. I think I need a more permanent break. Janthir Hoard has had their second content release, and after a few days I've decided to finally open and analyze everything. While opening everything, there was one major discovery I made, which is relevant for a few chests. Sometimes, when you open a chest with a piece of unidentified gear, there's a chance it appears as a rarer version of unidentified gear. This is known, and I figured it was coded like all the drop tables you've seen so far. However, when looking at all the numbers, they were all around the same, and they were not pretty, as I had alluded at the start of the video. I couldn't really make sense of it. Blue gear has around an 88% chance to promote to a higher tier, with a little under 10% to become green, and green gear has a 96.4% chance to upgrade. These numbers were pretty solid, and I couldn't really prettify them. These numbers didn't make sense until I remembered something. And I looked at the wiki, and what do you know? The chance for unidentified gear to promote to a higher rarity shares the exact same ratio as the chance of getting higher tier gear when identifying unidentified gear. Like 1 to 1. So, from now on, if a chest includes unidentified gear, I will use a special promotion window for it in the previews. Well, I could include every item it could promote into with all the chances, like here with 50% unidentified rare and the other 50% an Alonian weapon. Let's keep it simple and show it like this. You are smart enough to know it is the same. And here are the full numbers for the promotions. Alright, I made you wait long enough. Let's open the Ignaxious hoards. I did some mining off camera and got some more chests than compared to the beta. Let's start with Ignaxious' Hoard boss first. Fairly straightforward. Some unidentified gear, Cerex weapons, a rare mini and a super rare ascended. Each chest contains 2 pieces of common unidentified gear, 2 pieces of uncommon unidentified gear, 2 rares and some Dragonite ore. The Dragonite ore is divided up evenly between 5 and 15. This is a shared theme for Dragonite ore, Bloodstone dust and Imperial shards in most chests. There's nothing much to say for the blue and green gear, except maybe that they don't promote in any of the Secret of the Obscure rares, or as I like to call them, regional rares. This is also where the in-game preview is a bit of a liar. Instead of just Cerex weapons, it can also drop Eagle Eye and Skyforge weapons, though there is a higher chance for Cerex. Hoards also drop exotic equipment satchels. This seems to be quite a unique thing, so I'm making an assumption that regional rares can promote to these satchels. There's also a 40% chance that the rare is unidentified instead, with 1 rare being twice as common as 2 rares. You might think, why not pair the rares together? They all have roughly the same drop rate of 12%. Well, that comes into play later with the other chests. Also, when the mini dropped, a rare didn't, so I'm assuming the mini shares its slot with the rare gear. And finally, there is the Ascended. I'm not going to say anything about that for now. Let's continue to the other type of hoard first. The Ignaxious Achievements Hoard is pretty unique when it comes to Ignaxious hoards. No Dragonite ore, always a rare or above, and it drops map currency, though that is not shown in the preview. Well, the calcified gasps amount have the same chance of dropping. Here is also the reason I separate the regional rares from the unidentified rares. From looking at all the data, I'm fairly sure the special regional exotics can only be promoted from regional rares. And again, I'm going to skip the Ascended for later. Both previews of the two Knaebelag hordes indicate that they are the same. And spoiler, they are. But for completion's sake, here they are separate. Knaebelag's horde is like a combination of Ignaxious hordes. All the unidentified gear and all the rares. The only thing missing are the calcified gasps. But I guess that's why the Dragonite ore is there. Looking at the distribution, the chances say the same. Not sure what to say. These hard-fought hordes are basically identical to the Knaebelag's hordes. Here's the unboxing. Now for the Ascendeds. Having opened quite a lot of the hordes, and even opened some off-screen, the 1% doesn't feel so far off, which kind of makes sense as these weapons are account bound. This makes a super rare tag a bit sneaky, but it gives some nice happy chemicals. During editing I noticed that there may have been a mistake with the Ascendeds grouping. You see, the Ignaxious horde with only rares dropped the Ascended in addition to the other drops. But the other hordes seem to drop them instead of a rare. This means it sits in the rare gear group and has a lower drop rate, as it is twice the chance to drop. Not sure how to add this to the preview, so I'm going to leave it like that, as this is a way to interpret it. Yes, this does mean that it's probable that someone out there got 2 Ascendeds from one horde. And the last Niles box. Hard fought with a 1 per day limit. There are 4 drops. One of which is a piece of gear, and 3 are crafting materials. There's also chance for some really rare stuff. And with the account bound caveat discussed with the previous box, not to mention the availability of the box, I suspect these chances to be lower than usual. But is my hunch correct? Well, there are clearly 2 groups of materials. Looking at the distribution, the common crafting materials have a bit of a wonky distribution, but the rares are fairly safely to pin down on 50%. The gear is a bit of a different beast. Of course, I didn't get an infusion or anything from that drop table. That's obvious preview bait and shouldn't be taken seriously. However, I did get some Ascendeds, enough that I dare to guess a 5% on the drop rate. That said, I do want to stress that the unique item, the Axe of Destiny, might have a higher bias than the other items on the list. At least, that is what I would do if I were a dev. But I'm not brave enough to actually make that into a preview. Since we've gone over the Niles hordes, might as well transition over to my big mistake, the Janthir hordes. It is rather simple in preview. The usual uncommon gears and Dragonite ore, a rare weapon set, and a super rare drop. Quite similar to the Niles hordes. But is it really? It has the same drop type as the Niles hordes. 2 blue gear, 2 green gear, 2 rares and a Dragonite ore. The Dragonite ore is evenly distributed again between 5 and 15. And again, the preview is lying, as both the regional rares drop from the horde. Though I've been told that this was an error, and that the current hordes only drop the full moon weapon set. So let me alter that. Doesn't really reflect my dataset now, but meh. You know how I roll by now. The rare distribution is the same as with the other hordes. Still separate because of the weird satchel. No spear, obviously. I've seen some rumors online that it is a 1 in 1000 chance, but I don't work on rumors. Not once I didn't start, at least. When doing a lot of the same meta, you end up getting a lot of the same champion bags. Since I was gathering boxes, might as well save these too. There's no preview for champion bags, but in general they drop a piece of gear, some crafting material, some blaststone dust and some coin. Well, this turned out to be more intricate than I anticipated. The simple things first. Bloodstone dust is evenly distributed between 2 and 8. The green piece of gear can also promote and has a 50% chance to become an Elonian weapon when it upgrades to rare. Now the weirder stuff. There's a 4% chance for a bonus piece of gear, 1.5% for an unidentified green, 1.5% for a regional rare, and 1% for a regional exotic. The regional rares seem to drop at about the same rate, so no bias. The regional type differs per box, and since this is a secret of the obscure box, it contains rares found in Soto and exotics introduced at the start. Just shattered, no abomination. 4% is a strange number, but that is what the numbers say, and they don't lie. The crafting materials are also more divided than I thought. Not only does each type have a different drop rate, the amount they drop in is vastly different. Like, all basic materials share the drop rate of 80%, 1 batch, 10%, 2 batches, and another 10% for 3 batches. All except for silk, which shares its drop rate with tier 5 dust, of 50% 2 batch and 50% 3 batches. And mithril ore, which shares its drop rate with all the other tier 5 trophies. 35% for 2 batches, 45% for 3 batches, and 5 to 10 batches evenly distributed over 20%. All these materials have an 80% chance to drop. Note that there's no boot drop for some reason. The other 20% is 90% for the rare materials, which are Dragon Cores and tier 6 trophies. The tier 6 trophies drop in the same amount of batches as the most basic materials, and the last 1% is lodestones. Looking at the gold distribution, it is safe to say that there's an equal chance to get any amount between 100 and 150 copper. Since I also did a lot of Janthir content, I ended up with a ton of Janthiri Gear Boxes too. I didn't foresee these to be much different than the Deluxe Gear Boxes. And I was right. The distributions confirm my suspicions, and this champ bag shares the same rate as the Deluxe Gear Box, including the lack of wood, with the exception of the regional drops of course. The Janthir specials are full moon weapons and earthen ornamented weapons, as the rare drops, and Serpent's Wrath weapons as the exotic drops. My suspicions are that this distribution is shared amongst most, if not all, champion bags. But I haven't looked into that too much as of now. Continuing my mistake, I managed to gather 100 Honeycomb-covered Gear Bags. Around a month worth of effort. My suspicion is that this is also a champ bag, though I'm not that confident as the Queen Bee in Lowland Shore does not drop this item. And again, I'm proven wrong. This acts more like an overworld chest than a champ bag. The giveaway being the Imperial Fragments, which are evenly distributed between 2 and 4 by the way. Each bag also drops a Mersat runestone, 2 pieces of masterwork gear that can promote into regional weapons, and lastly, there's another regional rare that has a 40% chance to be a regular unidentified rare instead. These 3 specific Kodan caches stack in your inventory after your Warclaw has dug them up, so they're a great item for an unboxing. Or so I thought. They really threw me for a loop. Let's start with the easiest one to figure out. The hard part is figuring out the mess of gear drops. Unlike the theory of promotion I had earlier, the first part seems to have a higher chance for an upgrade. Mainly so it can drop in multiples, 1 to 3 blue ones, or 1 or 2 green ones, or 1 rare one. Maybe these can even promote. Actually, I'm sure of it, as one gear drop was a generic exotic torch instead, which I wrongly attribute to the next part, as I just didn't know how else to visualize it. Each lesser cache also has a low chance to drop a promotable blue gear drop. I'm sure of it, that this drop is the only one that can promote into the full moon and earthen ornamented weapons. Again, the exotic is wrong, but call it an artistic liberty to place it there. Each cache also has a 40% chance to drop a gem, with an 88% chance for a green gem and a 12% chance for a yellow gem. Also in the separate tables are the runestone, with an 8th chance to drop, the rares, which I assume to be at 0.3%, more on that later, the gold drop, also at an 8th chance, and the unusual coins. I didn't find any evidence for those to be in a particular group together, mainly so because of the other caches, but more on that later. The distribution for gold and unusual coins seems evenly spread. Also, I recommend opening caches with enough stacks of Lowland expertise. That way you get extra goodies. On lesser caches, the chance for materials is disgustingly low. But every bit helps, of course. The contents of this group changes on the map where you open them. And with 6 stacks you get a bonus unusual coin. These do add up a lot. Lastly, I want to mention that these were opened before the introduction of the scavenged obsidian weapons. I'm aware that all the caches can drop them, but obviously I can't say in what way and their chances. Though I suspect for the lesser cache, it is part of the bonus blue promotion. While the lesser cache was somewhat discernible, the trouble starts with the minor caches. Initially, this threw me for a loop, until I had my eureka moment. All the caches built on top of the previous versions. So the minor is the lesser cache, plus its own addition. In this case, it has a guaranteed chance for the lesser gear drop, with a 30% chance for another draw. That said, it is a bit weird now, as Essence of Luck can drop instead. Maybe this was part of the lesser caches too, but I can't say for sure. The whole gear portion of the caches is what I'm unsure about, so take it with a big dose of salt. The bonus blue stays the same. The gems now have a guaranteed gem drop and still a 40% chance for another gem drop. The runestone chance got doubled to 1 in 4. The rare chances got doubled to 0.6%. The gold and coins part is where the cache building comes into play. Starting from now, gold can drop multiple times. And looking at the chances for the minor caches and spoiler, the mythic caches, the 1 in 8 chance from the lesser cache is rolled twice, as this minor cache sort of contains 2 caches. Same with the unusual coins. It rolls once on the lesser cache table and once on the minor cache table. This shows in the distribution. The chance for some Janthir materials is 10 times higher, which is still not impressive, but a bit more reliable now. Still only 1 bonus coin. The mythical cache builds upon the previous caches as well, but since I don't have any info on the major caches, I'll have to fill in the blanks here and there. The gear part is still what I'm the most unsure about. From what I gathered, there are 2 drops from the lesser and minor gear drops, with luck too. Then there is a gear pool with the same chances, but only 1, instead of the option to drop higher amounts. Very clearly, I also saw that the mythical caches have a 100% chance to drop either a regional rare or an unidentified rare, with a 3:1 ratio. The bonus blue still makes an appearance, as it explains some extra blue and regional rare numbers. There is no randomness for gems anymore. Instead, you get guaranteed 4 draws from the gem table. Runestones also have a guaranteed drop, even a 50% chance to drop 2. That really shot up from the minor caches. I set the rare table to 2.4%, which is 4 times the lesser cache chance. Honestly, my dataset isn't large enough to see this as a conclusive number, so don't take this one too serious. The gold, however, does support my hypothesis of 4 draws with a chance of an 8th per draw, both with chance to get gold and the amount. The unusual coin spread says the same thing. It draws from the lesser coins, minor coins, major coins and mythic coins. With enough stacks, the Janthir wild materials are guaranteed, and, like the runestones, there is a 50% chance you get 2 of the same material. And the bonus coins jumped up to 2 per cache. And the last of my monthly Janthir grind are the precious Lowland Shore gear boxes. These were a pain to get, to be honest, so they better be worth it. They seem to drop Lowland Shore materials, Serpent's Wrath weapon skins, Urson ornamented weapons, more Lowland Shore materials, and rarely a bear claw. What? That seems off. I got 1 rare drop and there was more materials. I know I only opened 100, but still, we opened a lot of boxes together and this feels really unlucky. I have a hunch that this isn't intended. Also ended in this update is the swamp-worn Lowland Shore Gear Box. This replaces the precious gearbox drop on the Bog Queen. And as you can see, the preview is identical to the precious, but with 1 more super rare drop. My instincts say that the drop chances have been copied over, and if the old one was bugged, the new one is too. I made a small post on Reddit telling others my suspicion, but got laughed at and schooled that I didn't know about variants. Well, sure, but the hunch didn't let go. I've opened enough chests that this needed more investigation. The mini Bog Queen, that supposedly drops from the Swampworn box, can be sold according to the API. Days go by, weeks go by, months go by, and still no mini on the trading post. Even the super duper rare pale branch spear was on the trading post in a day when it no longer dropped account bound. And what do you know? With the launch of the last Janthir Wild release, suddenly lots of mini Bog Queens on the trading post. Either everyone got super lucky all of a sudden, or they changed the drop rate. Maybe because it was bugged to begin with. I may be terrible at statistics, even though it's my job, but I still feel vindicated that my hunch was correct. As I said earlier in the video, part of the fun of a beta is doing things you know is normally not optimal. One such thing is opening shipments that aren't trophy or ladder shipments. With all the magic I saved up, which isn't that much to be honest, I opened an equal amount of cloth, wood and metal shipments, starting with cloth. Looking at the distribution, it seems obvious. 60% chance for the tier 5 variant, and the other 40% is divided amongst the other tiers. Also, each shipment has 10 draws, and each material drops 10 times, though that is true for all shipments. Now, for wood. Much of the same. 60% for the tier 5 and the other tiers share the 40%. Is metal the same? At a first glance it looks different, but it is only because there is no tier 3 metal. Iron fills both roles with iron and steel. So in the end, the distribution is the same as the other shipments. Over time, I gathered some nuggets of Kryptis essence, and I thought it would be interesting to know what is inside of them. Each nugget seems to contain one fine, one masterwork and one rare essence. The amount in which I drop is a bit special. Fine drops between 12 and 25, with a rare chance for 50, masterwork between 5 and 10, with a rare chance of 20, and rare drops between 2 and 5, with a rare chance of 10. Another box of Kryptis essence I found in my inventory are rift extractions. These drop 2 essences at a time, and each drop can be each essence. The amount in which they drop seems to be of equal distribution, but the type seems to favor fine and masterwork twice as much as rare essence. Did World vs World for around a year and saved up some packets. Time to open them. Not much to say. The basic rarity has the same 4% chance to drop, though tier 6 basics only drop in batches of 1, while the others drop in batches of 2, and the ascendants are in their own group with a chance of 1% each. Honestly, don't like this one. This was opened in the beta, before the blueprint change. Not to mention I forgot to keep track of my World vs World experience, so a big part of the box was not documented. I still made some visuals, but I won't make a preview on it. What I do want to show and analyze are the Mist-Hardened lockboxes. These mystified me, so time to spend all my World vs World currency on the beta and buy keys. Ugh, I have to consume them one by one? Be right back. Oops, I forgot to record. Let's continue from here. This one was a bit of a puzzler. Most of the time I get 2 drops, but sometimes I get 3. At first I thought it was because of a rare drop, but it could all be crafting materials. Then I thought it was due to different groups, but I couldn't figure out distinct groups. In the end, I took a look at the 2 and 3 distributions and made a simple 95% chance for 2 drops and a 5% chance for 3 drops. As usual, where the preview groups up the commons and uncommons, their distribution within their groups are different. My biggest gripe with the old preview is that the super rare infusion is grouped with the way more common Officer's Remnant chest. So common that it fits better with other items based on the drop rates. Sadly, this information isn't that useful, besides calling out the old preview, as between the beta and Janthir wilds it got updated and a new item was added. Guild Siege is no longer a thing and corrupted weapons appear in the lockbox now. Time to open and see what has changed. Concerning the crafting materials and trophies, nothing's changed. Same with what I dubbed the rare and super rare category. However, the availability of blueprints got lowered, and in return there's a higher chance of the Mist's Bounty category, which got turned upside down from the previous iteration and got taken over by a new World vs. World experience item. Also, another utility item got added to this group. Lastly, the corrupted weapon I couldn't place. It's decently rare that it deserves its own group. 0.5% is maybe a bit of ambitious to call, but I stand by the number based on my results. The structure is what matters, because, believe it or not, the lockbox changed again between opening and now. Karma was just sitting there on my beta account. Why not spend it all on a forgotten box? Each box contains one Karma consumable and one other item. The Karma consumables are a bit weirdly distributed, both in drop rate and in the amount they drop. It was probably all calculated based on Karma return, so you can keep on buying boxes. The junk is by far the most common, but also has a weirdly complex amount distribution. Well, I don't question it too much. 15% for an obsidian shard is the information that most people are looking for, I'd imagine. The drop table of the rare drops feels as expected. This chest can be bought with laurels. There's one for each class, but I bought the warrior one because it has the largest spread of available gear. My aim was to see if some weapons appear more often. Wait, I have to click them one by one? Looking at the numbers, it doesn't seem to favor any particular item type or weapon set. I believe it just picks from all the available core rares and exotics. The only useful takeaway is that there is a 2.5% chance to get an exotic instead of a rare. In the same vein as the rare chest, there is also an exotic chest. Wait, I have to select them one by one? That's even worse. At least they have an open all option. And again, it doesn't seem that any particular type or weapon set was favored. Same assumption as the rare box. I believe it picks from all available exotics. Not sure about precursors, but these chests don't come in high supply, so this analysis is not that impactful. And last, but definitely not least, are the fluctuating masses. This was one of the items that had me real curious to what they actually contained. I've been mindlessly buying these whenever possible and collected a whole ton of them. That's why they are last, because there's so many of them. I'm going to speed this up. Since there is a lot, it is time to bring out the wide preview. Each mass contains one piece of gear, one piece of junk or trinket, and one valuable. The piece of gear is a promotion, nothing new there. The junk and trinket group is more interesting. It looks like there's a 2% chance for a trinket and all seem to have around the same chance to drop. Quality doesn't seem to matter at least. The other 98% is for junk items. The numbers show them to be equal in drop chance and their amount is also equal between 1, 2, 3 and 4. Moving on to the other group, it looked like basic materials and ingredients have the same chance to drop. Though basic materials have a thrice the chance to drop, as they drop in batches of 1, 2 or 3, at the same rate as ingredients. Note that leather seems to be missing from the drop table for some reason. There is a group of ingredients, however, that has a far lower chance to drop, and they are all account-bound ingredients. On the flip side, they drop equally in batches between 4 and 11. Continuing further, fine trophies and gems share a drop rate, with fine trophies being able to drop in batches of 1 or 2. Note that only totems, scales and dust are represented. The other 5 trophies don't seem to drop at all. One tier lower are the rarest versions of basic materials, trophies and gems, grouped together. But they aren't the rarest materials on the drop table. That honor goes to the dragon materials, Heart of Thorns gems, and some other high-end materials. There are also a bunch of materials I couldn't place, but they had the same drop chance, so I just placed them in a misc group. Tomes of Knowledge and Vision Crystals sort of have the same drop chance, and dice seem to have 4 times that. so I thought it funny to place them together. Note that there are 2 different Masterwork dice and 2 different rare dice. And lastly, the salvage items. No clue why, but even with the Astral Fluctuating Mass numbers, height seems to be a bit lower in drop chance. And it is too solid to give them all the same chances, so it looks like this. Introduced in the last release of Secrets of the Obscure, these are an alternative version of Fluctuating Mass. While I've opened way more by now, this is the amount I managed to scrounge together for the beta and the Janthir Wilds opening. Astral Fluctuating Mass is nearly identical to regular Fluctuating Mass, with one big exception. Trinkets don't drop. This means that there's a 100% chance for junk, which keeps its distribution. Basically, it removed the 2% chance to get a Karma trinket, which wasn't worth any money. Do with this what you will. And with that, we've reached the end. It was crazy, huh? Well, I feel crazy after this multi-year project. As much as I've sated my curiosity with all this, I'm left with a double feeling. On the one hand, there keep coming more chests I want to uncover, like the Convergence CM chests, which are very limited, or the bounty chests from End of Dragons, which have some juicy drops. But that's just not feasible, even with a group that would just burn us out for a too small sample size. The way forward is either for ANET to just make the drop rates public, or have some sort of non-intrusive plug-in, like RuneLite for RuneScape, to gather all the drops from everything, so that players can just play the game and the datasets fill themselves. That way there will be no bias either, as every drop would count instead of just a subset. And it would be more apparent when a chest isn't functioning as it should. So, with that conclusion, I'm going to really try to hold myself back and not save up any more boxes for such an analysis. Because getting 200 Janthir Hoards took a real swing at me, while 200 players passively collecting data on Janthir Hoards is such a better alternative for my mental health. So, these unboxing videos won't happen in my near future. Neither will the analysis, unless someone makes a non-intrusive drop tracker that aggregates the information. And that someone isn't me. Not in the coming few years anyways. Bit of a sour note to end on, but I hope you enjoyed the video regardless. Shorter videos should follow soon, but you know me, it sometimes gets out of hand.